It's pouring outside. I just came home and suddenly had this urge to talk about a few books that brought me into this world of books. So these are the books that I read as a beginner. And I strongly believe that if you haven't started your reading journey yet, these books can actually pull you into this very magnetic and beautiful world of literature. So, yeah, five books that actually work like a miracle, or shall we say, medicine, or a first aid when I was not in my right mind state. And I started with reading books, and these were like the five books that actually pulled me into this beautiful world of books. And I never look back because I want to stay in here and spend the rest of my life here, and if possible, get married to a fictional man and, like, live here basically. Without any further ado, let's start. The first book is by an Indian author. I am not sure how many of you must have heard about her, but I bought this book extremely impromptu. I don't know how I'll feel about this book if I read it now as a as an advanced reader, or maybe moderately advanced reader. But when I was a beginner, I enjoyed it extremely, like thoroughly. It's basically set in Dehradun and it's a romance novel. So two people who meet, who are like college sweethearts, and they get married to each other and all of those things. It's like a complete family entertaining, masaledar jo Indian movies में नहीं होता जैसे Indian like contemporary movies, like extremely like that. And by the end of the book, we have our hearts a little heavy, थोड़ा सा emotional हो जाता है, but I loved it. It was like something that like got me out of my reading slump, because we're Indian and Indians can relate to this book. And the book I'm talking about is कोई good news. Well, कोई good news का मतलब आपको समझ में आ ही गया होगा. Good news से क्या मतलब है इस author का, but yeah, कोई good news by Zarin Khan. Now Zarin Khan is not the Bollywood actor Zarin Khan. She is an author. So if you're looking for entertainment while reading a book, like entertainment मतलब ऐसा कि आपको लगे कि आप कोई movie देख रहे हो, but like funny and all of those things, like relatable stuff, I think this is the book that you should be picking. The next book in this list is a book that reminds me of the movie Up. If you haven't watched the movie, I don't know what you've been doing. Please, please, please watch that movie. It's one of my most favorite animated movies of all time. It is one of those books that will make sure that you feel at home, and one of those books that you would want to, give it forward, like to somebody else, like pass it forward so that they also get a chance to read it. It's so beautiful, and I'm sure everybody must have already read the book or either watched the movie. I'm not sure if the movie is worth it, but I'm sure of the book. And the book is A Man Called Ove, Ove, however it's pronounced, and by Frederick Backman. I haven't gotten around reading any other Frederick Backman after this, but I think this was all I needed when I read it for the first time. And I remember loving it so much. I remember hugging this book tight to my chest. I remember crying over a few characters in this book. I would not like to give spoilers about the book, but yeah, I remember, like, falling in love with literature after reading this book. It's so beautiful. Contemporary, yes, but the way it's written, some beautiful paragraphs, some beautiful lines that's like so relatable, so heart touching, and you feel like basically annotating the entire book because it's so beautifully written. I think this is the book. This is the book. So the third book can be a little controversial because it's not something that any other general readers would recommend a new reader to start their reading career with. But because I personally started my reading journey with this book, like the first ever book that I read, like not first book, but I would say that the first book by an international author that I first read. You get me? Like उससे पहले मैंने Indian authors पढ़े थे, like Chetan Bhagat and Durjay Datta and all of them, but I could not, cross the coastline. I could not cross overseas to read some other author, like fictionally. And then one great day comes when my sister lends me her copy of this book and tells me that, you know what, you got to read this. And I read this. And since then, I have always complained on why this author did not write any more books than the four books that I know of and I've read and I've spoken of. And I feel that he should have written some more because I want to read more of him. Cried buckets on reading this book. I have like death, experienced death fictionally on reading this book. I have felt the pain of the characters on reading this book. I have felt the urge of killing somebody on reading this book. I have felt every emotion um, a human body can possibly, hold on reading this book. And although I do not recommend this book to anybody who's below 18, I do not recommend this book to anybody who's not ready to cry, or I would honestly not recommend this book to somebody who does not feel the need to understand women in general. No. I think this book is for people who wants to understand women, who wants to understand what we as women have to go through in every aspect, in every country, in every corner of this world. I want to recommend this book to every woman who is above 18 and can deal with the trauma that the book holds. I want to recommend this book to everybody after you read the trigger warnings of the book. So these are all the disclaimers that I would like to give before I mention the book, and that is A Thousand Planets Sun by Khalid Hosseini. It must be weird for some people who might come at me saying, अरे ये कैसा book recommend कर रही हो beginners के लिए? I know it can be triggering. One of the most beautifully heartbreaking books that I've ever read, and I think no other books have come up to that level until now. I have never actually reread this book since I read it for the first time in 2015 or somewhere there. And क्योंकि मेरे को अभी भी पूरा याद है ये बुक, मतलब पूरा स्टोरी लाइन बाय लाइन मुझे याद है. And I don't know what I'll feel about this book now. I remember feeling so much empathetic for all the characters in the book, and someday I would surely like to reread this book. And I don't know what I can do about the brutality written in this book, as if it's like happening right in front of my eye. But I still would want to read this book someday and feel the pain once more, so as to get a reminder that women in any part across the globe may have to go through this any day, anywhere. And this could be one of the reminders to me to be as strong as Mariam and to be as significant, or shall I say, sensitive as Lala. I mean, these two women have literally changed my perspective and my life in such a way that no other real human being could have. Okay, moving on. The fourth is a memoir about this author who has fought battles, like not like war battles, but battles, personal battles, to get educated. And I guess you already know by the description that I'm talking about Educated by Tara Westover. I remember reading this book as probably my second or third biographies, like autobiographies. Ever since I read this book, I realized that education is not just a pen paper thing, it's like a privilege, a luxury that a lot of people cannot afford. And since the time I read this book, I remember, you know, valuing my education a lot more. Educated by Westover actually developed so much of gratitude in me for my family and my the life that I'm living, because she had to go through a lot to be educated. And it's weird. I never thought that education could be a luxury, but since I read this book, I realized that it is. It is an absolute privilege. So if you're educated, if you're studying, if you're, you know, working at this point because of how educated you are, I feel that everybody should be grateful for the education that they got to be somebody today, because otherwise there are people who are still like illiterate and they can never be civilized enough because they could not get the education that they needed. And fifth and the last one is a short story collection, and that is one of the major reasons why I'm recommending this book here. Also because this is one book that I read as a beginner, and I fell head over heels for this one author, one Indian author that I look strongly upon, and I loved her other works, the few that I read of hers. And what else do I have to say about her? And if you come and ask me, Simran, name your five favorite authors, she will probably, top that list. Like, even if not top, at least she'll be there in the list because I love her. I love the way she writes characters. I love the way she captures the human emotions, and it's so relatable. I can resonate with her writing so much, because of the fact that she writes about, like, immigrants and stuff. Although I'm not an immigrant, but I'm a Bengali, and she gives description of some Bengali families or Bengali situations, and I feel that, oh my god, you know what, I know you, and I can connect with the characters much more in that case. And the author that I'm talking about is Jhumpa Lahiri, and the book is Interpreter of Maladies, short story collection. And one of the stories from this book, I don't remember the name of the story, but I remember crying. I think the first story itself, I remember crying buckets on reading that first story, or at least one of the stories. There are a few brilliant stories in this book, and I think that if you want to experience Lahiri's writing, but you're not sure if you should be reading Namesake because that's overhyped, but I love that book. I genuinely recommend that book to you as well. But if you feel that you want to experience Lahiri but not read her full-fledged work, I think this is a great, great pick. I would also recommend Whereabouts, but Whereabouts is like very fragmented. I don't know. Like, I couldn't find the conclusion, or like, I just didn't find it to be, like, within a cocoon. It was all like scattered somewhere here and there. Maybe because I read it when I was traveling, so I couldn't like connect, or maybe I couldn't focus much. I would not blame the author at any cost because I love her. So that would be my problem. And I also tried reading romance stories, but I would not recommend you to read romance stories because it's translated from the Italian, so the essence of the originality is not there. And romance story, I also read, like, not, I didn't read the entire romance story collection, but I remember reading the first two maybe, and then I could not connect. It just didn't feel like Jumbalari, to be honest. I'm sorry if I'm hurting somebody's emotion and sentiment, but I'm sorry. That was my opinion. The book does not have the essence of Jumbalari at all. So if you want to experience Jumbalari, and if you want to experience what she writes and how she does it for the first time, go ahead and pick this book blindly. This one is the savior for you, and I'm sure once you read this, you are going to explore her more, and then you get your hands on the Namesake, the Lowland, and all the other miscellaneous books that she must have written. But this one could be the first pick, hands down. So these are the 5 books that I read as a beginner, and I strongly feel that if you're a beginner and if you want to start reading, all these books are easily readable for anybody who's probably 15, 16, 17, except for this one. Would not recommend this to anybody who is below 18, but otherwise just go ahead and give this all a read. In various genres, literary fiction, biography, and short story collection, I have everything amalgamated here. This will make your reading journey more valuable and easy. Until then, happy reading. You get the time that you need, the money that you need to pick the book and read the book anytime, anywhere. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one. Until then, happy reading and lots of love.